I'm reminded of a book, I think late 50s, by C.P. Snow, The True Culture of the Scientific and the
Scientific and literary intellectuals.
Which philosophy would belong.
Right.
And C.P. Snow maintained at the time that there can never be a genuine relation because the humanists have no capacity to understand difficult, if not paradoxical ideas that come up in science, and vice versa, to a certain extent. More the humanists not really grasping what is going on in the complexity of scientific discovery. So I'm only advancing this book for the simple reason that simply because in a democratic way, which I believe in, people are involved to give their opinion. What is the opinion based on? What I'm also trying to think of here is of Derrida's interpretation of what he calls the pharmacon, which I think can be generalized as any technology having two aspects that are equally valid, one for good, one for evil. I mean, the drug can heal and kill simultaneously, depending on the dose. So, what I feel is sometimes going on in certain corners of the world is the immediate demonization of a new discovery, which might have, and by the way, I welcome the moratorium in the past, but this talk about Frankenfood and so forth and so on amounts to me to a demonization not really based on the idea that, as any discovery, this discovery does have two sides, and one should weigh very carefully how one can avoid the other of the good side to be absolutized, which could happen. I mean, look at atomic energy for peaceful means or to destroy the planet. So those would be my cautionary notes.
You don't go in this mean thing, there's master who decides which one. But you are right that every technology in itself has not only bad and evil, many possibilities. And bad and evil are unfounded, sharp the moment we see it this way. So we have to learn to, like Nietzsche, bejahen yes and no at the same time. Don't fear, live dangerously. Right, it's okay, you die, so what to die anyway? It's not so for Frankenfood, getting rid of the shit in you. Huh? Don't remember you are full of shit. And I mean it very nice in a phenomenological way. Opening that up, you are full of shit. Maybe it's Frankenfood just eating a little pill, and inside you have all the place for the computers you have now outside, because you don't have this Gedärme anymore in there. Okay. One word to Google. Without Google, EJS would not exist. Without our Hendrik, we would also not exist, but Google makes it. And if you ask for Carl Mitcham, he is not somebody at the School of Mines. He is a professor at EJS, first place. Why? Because Google understands that this is the most important thing he's done in his life. So even actually, that is a good ending.
But Google has.
You want to ask something, Brian?
No, yeah. But I'm looking from the dual aspect or multiple aspects of any discovery or breakthrough. I mean, I understand your arguments, the sort of wisdom of the crowd thing for deciding allocation of a lot of the rest of the budget, which is you can sort of tell ahead of time what the outcome will be. But what can anyone, even the scientists, know about what the outcome will be of a breakthrough that may or may not even happen? Like, what knowledge can be brought to that? Like you said, the changing from the central heating, from the stove to the central heating, the change in lifestyle and the change in interaction and the change in culture couldn't really be been foreseen.
Well, to some extent, yes, but to some extent, no. I mean, if we cultivate ignorance, obviously, we're not going to be able to see very much. But there's a whole field of technology assessment that tries to anticipate consequences, both positive and negative. And certainly a corporation does not invest money in the development of a new product if it doesn't think it can sell. And so they have to do research on whether it will sell, and then they're very concerned to protect themselves from legal liability. So they have to do research on what some of the downsides might be. We have systems for assessing drugs by clinical trials. So, I mean, although at the extreme, of course, that's true. We cannot anticipate all the consequences. We shouldn't let the extreme prohibit us from trying to understand, from doing research on potential consequences. And it's amazing the number of which that we can actually be very good on. There was a book written by Alan Mazur back in 1986, I think it was. It was True Warnings and False Alarms. And what Mazur did was take from the Office of Technology Assessment that existed at the time, I think it was about 50 warnings about the potential dangers of different specific scientific or technological advances. And then, 20 years later, looked at them and said, okay, well, did these turn out to be true or false? Turns out that a full 75% of them were quite accurate, right? So this is I think this argument that somehow we can't tell, it's just serendipitous. That's a rationalization of self-interest on the part of scientists to say, let them decide, and let us do what we want, rather than a recognition that we could do more in these areas to try to understand what the potential consequences would be.